Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine, Moorish American, Al-Moroccan heirs, all rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American consular court action. We are the sovereign, living justice in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. I am sovereign, living justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is light to jure bay. Both are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco, the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, Washington District for Columbia, the Universal Moorish American Consulate, and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are executing the law by our sovereign capacity, which is the original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine, Article 3 living United States District for Columbia Bankruptcy Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, secured creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, claimants, and beneficiaries in this action. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time. I want to make just a quick correction here. The bankruptcy is already complete. We are actually just in the liquidation phase. So the first thing that I want to place on the table is that all of those custodians previously doing business as CEOs are hereby resigned. We will be sending things out in writing, but we're placing it on the public record today. Every one of them is resigned. We have taken our proper place as the head of all resources on our land. So I just wanted to make that clear, that, you know, just because we may not have gotten to notification in writing specifically, which we will do over time, but for the record, on the record, and letting the record show, all of them are resigned and free to go. Secondly, just as a sidebar, the Mar-a-Lago distraction, where I want to thank Empress Cynthia for asking about that particular incident. Listen, when they do things like that, first off, let me say that as we continue to do what we're doing, they're going to be on they're going to be doing things that if we don't know what's going on, we'll be distracted by it. So don't be distracted by the things they do. And as the further we go along in what we're doing, that's probably going to get theatrically just, you know, out there on their way out the door. So they're doing that to keep others busy while we're doing what we're doing. And then Mar-a-Lago and the quote-unquote FBI raid is just another signal to us. Mar-a-Lago is actually this. It's more a la go. That's the go signal for that whatever needed to be done, whatever they needed to do is done, and they're just sending out, they're signaling in the way that Masons do. So let's just ensure that we are taking this time to stay focused on building and growing, etc. And, I will say this too about that whole distraction piece. Yes, in the chat. They are done. So with regard to the occupiers, on our last call, Justice Sharif was saying that they should be punished. And I just want to give you a really quick synopsis of the fact that anyone who is currently doing custodial work in those positions, I had an experience yesterday with one of them at a grocery store, and I won't say which one because it's not important, but I commanded a manager to come, or custodian in the office of manager to come and put someone else on a register because the line was long and there was only one. And so he came forward, and just in listening to him and watching him and watching his energy, listen, they are so stressed out from the top to the bottom. I actually had to offer some words of something to bring some peace to what was coming out of his mouth, because they're so stressed out, and he exuded stress and more stress. So the punishment is already being meted out, and it's not really punishment. That's what goes with occupying land that is not yours. Is anyone out there? They're all really stressed out. The custodians previously in the Office of Policy Enforcers and police, stressed out. Everyone is stressed out. And so, we don't have to worry about punishing anybody. We don't have to worry about that. Our ancestors know what they're doing. Our ancestors know what they're doing. And so with that being said, we stay focused. That's my thing, is just to stay focused on what we're doing. And then also, I will say this about, if there are any who was previously doing business as corporate, who may be a little bit belligerent or whatever, which, anyway, even if they wanted to be a little belligerent, they can't be belligerent. They actually have to follow the law. So their state of mind is such that, you know, the ones who used to really live kind of quote unquote fat and large on doing what they were doing, that's not there anymore. So their energy and their, what they're putting forth, they're out of, most of them are ready to go anyway, because they're not getting big fat quote unquote bonuses like they used to get, and all of that stuff. All of that stuff is out the window. So, those that were previously in the offices of CEOs are happy to actually get out the way. Most of them are getting out the way anyway. There was a story that appeared recently with regard to the custodian who was previously in the office of CEO of Whole Foods, who went on into the media saying, well, and they called him the outgoing CEO, but he's already gone as far as we're concerned. Okay. But he was saying that his complaint on his way out the door was that the young people don't want to work, and the socialists, quote unquote, have taken over. So they all know what's happening. They all know what's happening. And, so we just have to continue moving in the manner that we're moving. And let's just keep moving forward. Everyone knows we're here. So, Morris, I will say, you all and we all have done an amazing job. We've done an amazing, amazing job. We went through a lot, and we've done an amazing job. The work is, we got a lot more work to do, yes. We got more documentation to send out, yes, we know that. We've got more things to actually get up and go out and do, we know that. We have to govern. It's been quite a journey to get to this point, but you are absolutely to be honored, because we've been on the calls where more we're crying, and you all definitely have seen me cry, about, as we're going through this process. But you're to be honored and congratulated on the demonstrations that you've done, and even in the face of fear, even in the face of, whatever needed to be dealt with, you've done an amazing job. We have done an amazing job, and for that I am so grateful. And then thirdly, sending fiduciary money and documentation ahead of you with proper notification. And this is something that I'll be doing over the next few days and weeks as well, is sending the same way. And see, this is what I love about Delarium, is Delarium gave us the practice we needed in sending out things with our affidavits, because now we're doing that with the fiduciary money. So we can send it ahead with commands and then move forward. Okay, so we have that experience already under our, so we can just keep moving in the same manner. Nothing has changed. We're still just governing everything and all that's on our land, all of the resources on our land. With that being said, and speaking of fiduciary money and fiduciary duty, I want to offer even more information and law with regard to what we're doing and the fiduciary money. And I think I'll just keep affirming it everywhere I see affirmation for fiduciary money. I'm just going to put it out there. And I've actually been looking at the comments under the videos and things, and the Moors are in support of what we're doing as well. And then we've heard from other Moors who say that they're in support as well. So, and they're doing the same thing. They're going to be printing up their fiduciary money as well. So I'm excited for us. So something that I wanted us to look at as we continue to liquidate. So our teachers have talked about customs and usage. And every treaty talks about customs and usage. And I want to thank my consul, whom I bounce things off of and get information from and exchange energies with one of them. I do that with all of us. We all exchange energies together like that. My consul, the financial consul, who happens to be my biological brother. One of them, I have 6 brothers, and so he brought this up, customs and usage, because his expertise not only is finance, but it's also international law. And so I wanted us to take a look at custom, this word, because it's important that this is also a part of what we're doing. What is custom? And again, this is mentioned in treaties. So nations have customs and usage, things that they do. A usage or practice of the people, not persons, but people, which by common adoption and acquiescence and by long and unvarying habit has become compulsory and has acquired the force of a law with respect to the place or subject matter to which it relates. And then down a little further, it says, and this is from Black's Law, 4th edition, it says, a law not written, established by long usage and the consent of our ancestors. So again, customs has to do with the Moors. It says, if it be universal, it is common law. If particular to this place or that place, as in geography and jurisdiction, it is then properly custom. Now, with regard to fiduciary money, it is proper custom and usage that the bankrupt entities on our land be liquidated. We've done, this is not the first time that we've done this. We've been doing it the whole time. Whenever we could, because we take full responsibility for the financial state of the estate. And so yes, we look at the law, but whenever, because see, these definitions, as we know, are written by others. Okay, so, and then it's up to us to tailor the definitions to ourselves and put it on the public record as law. And when we utter it and we say it's the law instantly. And all are held accountable for that in terms of the custodians previously in the office of, and the subjects and the citizens. So this is another definition that points out that we needed to know where everyone is. And that's where the constitutions come in at. The constitutions say this, you're at Washington or you're at Illinois. You're not in a corporate state of Illinois. you're at Illinois territory or Washington territory or wherever. Ancient Morocco territory, you're there. You're at ancient Morocco. Okay. So we needed to establish that in writing on the public record. And once it's established and it is written, as Yeshua would say, it is written, it is written, it is written. Once we write it, then it's and we put it on the public record, then it says, okay, the Moors say we're here, so this is where we are. And then the Moors go ahead and write. And then whenever they talk about, whenever the subjects say something about a law that's not written, all they're doing is pointing to nature and nature's God or natural law. Okay? That's what whether it be written or not, that's where that comes in at. Okay. With that being said, let's look at usage, because that's a key word and it's in the definition of custom. But there is a difference between customs and usage. So usage in its most extensive meaning includes both custom and prescription. But in its narrower signification, the term refers to a general habit, mode, or course of procedure. It is not our custom to use debt instruments. It is our custom to create and use our own credit. At ancient Morocco, it is not even a custom or a usage for foreigners to be in charge of anything. It's not a custom or usage for fiat, Federal Reserve debt notes, to be flying around at Morocco. That's why this is so important that we're doing. A usage differs from a custom in that it does not require that the usage should be immemorial to establish it, but the usage must be known, certain, uniform, reasonable, and not contrary to law. So where usage is concerned, usage is basically just a modern day custom, or it's whatever we choose to point to and say, this is now what we're going to use, then it becomes a usage. And then the longer we use it, it becomes a custom. But from day one, it's the law, because we say it is, because we're the law. So with regard to finance, we, in using Federal Reserve debt notes, we were outside of our own custom and usage. That is not customary for us. Not to mention that is not lawful, but we know that. But now we're talking from ancient and time immemorial. And they use those terms when they're talking about custom and usage, because they know that only the ancients can put something forward on the public record and say, that's the law, and it is. In Turkish, we say, Oldin mi olduran, günelit mizit imanga dolduran, which is, when we intend a thing, our command is be, and it is. So, this is just another, customs and usage is just another ancient principle that concerning our fiduciary duty to liquidate. It is our duty to do so. And according to custom and usage, we must liquidate at this time. So, let's see. Some of this is I was going to say some things about the word person. I think that we are clear on the fact that we are not persons, but that all persons are under our sovereign authority. So, and that's whether the person is living or dead. Again, I was watching a movie the other day, and even after the video thriller, it talks about persons. The characters and events depicted in this film are fictitious. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. So they know that there's more than one type of person. I did look up did a little research on the web, and this came up. When we say the word person, we're speaking that word in Latin or ancient English. We're not even saying the word person in corporate English or dead English. The language that we're speaking matters. We never have been able to speak in inferior language, even though we thought we were speaking inferior, corporate, quote unquote, corporate English. Person as a noun is not even spelled the same. PER''SN. So the ancient spelling of the word, it does not have an O in it. It's actually two words put together. Per, and this is an accent grave, which is what they say in French, which is one of our languages. Person. Latin is persona, as in impropria persona sui juris. Said to be compounded of the word per, which means through or by, and sonus means sound. So when we're talking about a natural person in all capital letters, that's what we're talking about. And then this is important, Morris, a Latin word signifying primarily a mask used by actors on the stage. This is for the subjects, the custodians, that were previously in the office of. The mask was a title that was not theirs. They were acting as persons with authority. They were acting as persons with authority. That's what they were acting as, but that's not who they are. And then here it says person, a human being, a natural person. Number 2, a corporation, an artificial person. So they know there's more than one type of person. Either you are the fiduciary for a natural person, or you are a corpse. And this is the distinction that we have made. We're not persons. We know that. All persons are under our control and authority. It says corporations are treated as persons in many legal situations. And this is actually, this language here, treated as persons. This is not the law. This is a dictionary just taking a stab at it. This is not even really a definition. Corporations are treated as persons in many legal situations. That's a subjective sentence. Also, the word person includes corporations in most definitions in this dictionary. Any other being entitled to sue as a legal entity, a government, an association, a group of trustees. The plural of person is persons, not people. That is very true. People are living. Persons are not. Persons are not alive. They're not. We have a living person that we control, a natural person. But in the previous era that we just came out of, or that we just crossed over from, the persons were dead. Dead persons, corpses, corporations. So we've raised all of our resources, our living resources. So, and then right here at the bottom, it says the term person does not include the sovereign, and that's Wilson v. versus Omaha Indian Tribe, 442 U.S. 653 from 1979. So this is not even that old. 1979 was not that long ago. It was about 40-something years ago. And so with that being said, again, this is in all the older dictionaries. Okay. So everyone has known from the very beginning that we are not persons. All persons are under our authority. And then I want to just call your attention here, human being, monster. A human being by birth, but in some part resembling a lower animal. A monster hath no inheritable blood and cannot be heir to any land. And that is why human rights are not even, that has nothing to do with us. We give human rights to those who require, who need human rights. Let me put it that way. We say here's your right as a human. We are the gods, period. So with that being said, are there any questions, comments? I will put the meeting in the mode so that you can star 6. So it's going to mute every Islam. Islam, Empress.
Shasha Ambi.
Islam.
Jamaica territory. So I have a question regarding the fiduciary and taking over the CEO position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my consort, who was murdered, was the president owner of a business, which a company basically. And anyway, we were together 10 years. Anyway, in all of the conspiracy and everything else, the attempt was to move me out of the way, mad me, do whatever. But earlier today, I was suddenly thinking, with our fiduciary appointments,
yes.
Now he is deceased.
So you know what to do.
Okay, all right. Say no more.
Yes, you know what to do, Empress.
Because that just hit me, and I was like, wow, that's it. But, yes. Of course, okay, now would the same death certificate, the same United States Corporation death certificate would be the death certificate? I mean, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Everything is already laid out for you, Empress. All you have to do is execute.
I just need to do it.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
And I shall. Couple other questions, if I may. I was trying to catch up on some of the older, your older videos. And one that came up was the constitutions. You had 43 different constitutions from different territories. And I noticed that Jamaica was in there.
Yes, someone did it, yes.
And I was wondering, how do I get a look at that, or to see it, or to share in that? And did they explain to me a little more as to which constitution they use? Because Jamaica technically does not have a constitution.
Because the Constitution is Jamaica's Constitution. Okay, it's the same as Canada.
Okay. That's what I
yes.
felt and knew, but they also have a de facto something in orders, which Constitution in brackets, which I know is not the Constitution. So I'm trying to understand when I create the Constitution. It's the Constitution. So where do I need to put Jamaica, Shamaka in there somewhere? When I go
wherever you feel led to put it.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. One more question, and I put it in the chat actually because I watched the last video after the fact, and I see the fiduciary money or the credit, I forget the name you called it. And I wondered, can the same process be done with the de facto, the debt instruments here, or?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Because those same debt instruments come from the same place.
That's what I was thinking, but I needed to put it out there and
Thank you, Empress, for asking.
Wonderful.
Because
thank you.
Yeah.
Matondo Mamingi.
Yes. Say it again, Empress.
Matondo.
Matondo.
Mamingi.
Mamingi.
Kind of musical, so I always
find it is. I love it.
The mambo.
Yes, yes.
I yield. Islam.
Thank you, Empress. Islam. Islam nobility.
Yeah. Also wanted to, for the record, I didn't get a chance to vote on the fiduciary money for the credit voucher. My vote is yay.
And your appellation, just for the record.
My appellation is Apel can then be easily L.
Islam.
Apel Upper Territory for the fiduciary money. I vote
Thank
yay.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Much needed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Each and every vote is very, very, very key and important. Each vote counts.
Islam, may I interject again and add my yay into the mix?
Thank you, Chris.
Shamaka.
Got it. Islam. Good evening.
Where did you say we could find the Constitution?
Google. You can just Google the state of, and then take it and copy and paste it onto Morse government letterhead, put it in blue, read through it, and pull out anything that says state of this or state of that. And the reason
I've pulled that. I was just wondering if we were able to look at the one somebody had already done, but yeah.
That's another something on my to-do list is I have the folder created. I just need to put a few more in there and put the link out there. So when I get a moment, and that's why I'm just encouraging Morris to go ahead and do it for each one, do it for themselves so that they will have that checkbox checked in their consciousness that this is where they are, so that no one will be able to say, oh, you're at the state of Washington or you're at the state of this and state of that. No, Constitution says we're on our land. So I'm putting a folder together on
Pauline
Google
is in the fucking state of denial is what she is. State of denial, you dumb bitch. None of your shit works.
Watch your mouth.
No, hold it. Justice Akil, don't acknowledge. Please don't acknowledge that. That's not for us. That's not about us. That has nothing to do with us. So we don't give it life.
The hell it isn't, you dumb Negro.
And if we give it life, then so we just don't. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to get a folder out there at some point administratively, and you all are aware of this. It's quite a bit going on. So yeah, at some point I'll get a folder up, and I'll put the link out there.
Okay,
Islam Empress.
Yes, good evening. How's everyone?
All is well, Empress. Thank you. How are you?
I'm just glad to get on. I've been getting chopped off each time I would try to connect. But it's all right. I see things are better here. But I just want to put my name out, my appellation out, that I want to be a part of the agreement with the fiduciary money that was put on the public record. And my appellation is Grace Marie Chiel, and I'm in the territory of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Islam, Empress Grace, we are honored that you are here. Thank you for being here.
Yes, I'm delighted. Thank you. And I appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you, Empress, and I appreciate everything that you do as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Islam. I heard today that there's a Philadelphia, Mississippi. I didn't know that. I shouldn't be surprised, but I didn't know that. So are there any other questions or comments? Islam Nobility.
This is Justice Malik Akil-Bey.
Islam.
I had a question regarding our new fiduciary money.
Mm-hmm.
When we decide to print that out, do we do it? Do we have to make any alterations to the template, or just hit both sides?
Yeah, just both sides. Do both sides. And again, we went over all of the nuances of that and the things that have to do with that. So, yeah, you just the same way you did Delarium. Islam. We don't need to add anything to it. We don't need to write on it. We don't need to do any of that. We just print it out. And all of your writing and all of that is going to be on your affidavit that you send with it. Islam.
Islam, one more question.
Sure.
Is that supposed to be able to, should we be able to access ATMs with the fiduciary money?
You'll have to do the demonstration. I don't see why not.
Okay.
Islam. Are there any other questions or comments before we go on quickly to part 2 of this meeting?
Islam.
Islam Empress.
This is Rose L. I have a question regarding the fiduciary appointment letters. As we continue to create new ones, is it okay to continue to use July 13th, 2022?
Whatever you're led to use, yes. However you're led to do that. There are some of my fiduciary letters that say March the 21st, 2022. And then others that say, so it's up to you the date that you use. But yes, you can do that.
Okay,
you're the law and you're the government.
Thank you.
Islam. Islam Nobility.
With the fiduciary money.
Yes.
I know you've shown U.S. template. Here in the UK, can we use the English, the UK pound?
Yes.
The UK pounds.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And I may even have you to send me some pounds, Justice Kansu. And I'll send you some dollars, some of these over here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Islam. In fact, anyone who has a different fiduciary money, if you could just, slide your girl some over here. I just want to see what it looks like. Islam. And, you know, as we get our travel on, that's what we're going to be using when we come to see you, Justice Consul, over at UK. That's what we're using. Seriously. We want to observe and honor the customs and usage for your territory. Islam. Empress Shasha, same thing. We wanna honor the custom and usage for your territory.
Wonderful.
Yes, Islam. I just love this work so much. I just love it. Okay, so Empress Chitali brought up something the other day that the ancestors had kind of been impressing this on me to make it clearer. Empress Chitali has a way of saying things and laying things out that just makes it so much easier to understand. So she said that she suggested that we do like a little list of how we got from nationality to fiduciary money. How did we get there? And then another something Empress Chitali brought up on a conversation that I was having with her recently, which I think is so wise and so beautiful because it will plug any holes in your processes or our processes. I took it for our processes first and said, okay, we can plug anything up with this. And that is to just explain how you got from nationality to the authority of whatever it is you're doing. So right now, I just want to read through point for point how we got from proclaiming our nationality and then all the way to the ability and the authority, we've always had it, but the authority to liquidate and print fiduciary money endlessly. So I'm just going to do a quick, and if you see anything, any place in here where we can insert something else, if it's not as clear or something like that, please let me know. But I'm doing just a step-by-step of from the time I proclaimed my nationality to being able lawfully to issue $100 million in fiduciary money. So I'll start with this is from the top, from the beginning, starting off. So all of our documents are in on Moorish government letterhead and are done by quo warranto mandamus restitutio affidavits. Okay, and you can do the study on restitutio, which is restitution but in Latin, and a quo warranto says is questioning, doing a court action and questioning anyone about where they get their authority to do whatever it is that they think they're doing. So that's why we put quo warranto mandamus restitutio affidavits. That's one affidavit that does those three things for starters. Quo warranto mandamus is a command from the real law. And really, there's only one law. It's us. Because if it's not the real law, it's not law at all. So all of our documents are done that way. By affidavit, we know an unrebutted affidavit stands as law. And they are all done as Empire State Universal Article 3 court actions. Step 1, proclaimed our ancient Moorish American Al-Moroccan nationality on the public record in red ink in all lowercase letters, which is in capitis diminuto nolo. That's the Latin for in all lowercase letters. And in our proper personas, proper person, proper persona, and proper personas are just derivatives one of the other. In our proper personas is plural for in propria persona. And in proprio heredes, which means by our own proper inheritance. We invoke sovereign, supreme, ancient jurisdiction with our judicial proclamation document. In many cases, we wrote and published these documents in ancient English, which is not the same language as United States Corporation Company English, which is a dead language. Language is jurisdictional, and that's why we use and speak ancient English. So whenever I'm speaking, I'm using ancient English. Step 2, wrote and placed a termination of all presumed United States Corporation Company contracts on the public record. This is a permanent, irrevocable termination, nunc pro tunc, which means now for then. Important notification, steps 1 and 2 enjoined us back with our ancient sovereign state, nation, government, and empire. We have governed since time immemorial into perpetuity. We are the law, we are the people, we are the government. So when Moors declare their nationality, all it's doing is saying, I'm not a part of that dead thing, I am alive, and we are a living government, a living empire, a living nation. Okay, so step 3, I wrote and placed the trust proclamation affidavit on the public record. There's an echo coming from somewhere. So I'll go ahead and just mute any of the lines that may be open. Thank you. So step 3, wrote and placed a trust proclamation affidavit on the public record, simply stating that we have a sovereign trust, and that trust is vested in we, the ancient people, only. This one-page proclamation states that our full faith, trust, allegiance, credit, and energy is vested in ourselves at all times, nunc pro tunc. So that's just a proclamation that we do have a trust, and our trust is in each other and ourselves. Step 4, place the Universal Commercial Code onlinne on the public record that terminates the commerce for the all-capitalized nom de guerre war name, because we are not at war, we're at peace. Crafted on paper and used by the United States Corporation Company, so we terminated the commerce for that thing. We are at peace, so we created and do use a peaceful natural person in all capital letters as a tool to do sovereign commerce on our land. We possess a person, but we are not persons. The term person does not include the sovereign. And then person, we just went over this, what that really means in Latin, because person is a Latin word, but the English use that word also, and it may or may not mean the same thing depending on the intention of the user. Now, with regard to, I just want to say quickly, with regard to sovereign commerce, corporations cannot govern. So when we're using our natural person, the natural person cannot govern, but we are always governing in our sovereign, by our sovereign capacity to do so. Okay, so natural persons are minors. The all caps cannot govern. It's a minor, and we are the fiduciaries for that minor. Step 5, placed a Universal Commercial Code onlinne on the United States Corporation Company. Oh, and in step 4, we did also include the Social Security number. The U.S. Social security number. Okay, crafted on paper that was previously used by the United States Corporation Company, the dead one. Step 5, place a Universal Commercial Code onlinne on the United States Corporation Company and all of its agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any and all derivatives thereof. This is done by Article 3 Consular Court action, and all Moors have the authority to execute Article 3 Consular Court actions. All Moors are sovereign, ancient Article 3 justices, regardless of the tribe, state, nation, or government that we may be unified or aligned with. Therefore, all sovereign Moors can, will, and do save themselves as we save our nation. Step 6. Place a universal sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient fiduciary affidavit on the public record stating that all persons, letters, numbers, colors, punctuation, addresses, signs, signals, sigils, sounds, and all others are Moorish state and estate property nunc pro tunc. That's going to cover all contracts. One of our greatest successes has been in creating our own natural person and never accepting any other man's person. Only when you craft the document on Moorish government letterhead and put the natural person name that you own on the document is the document speaking about your natural person. If you didn't write it, then you don't have to accept that that's your natural person and that the document is talking about you. We do not accept a document crafted by anyone else with our natural person on it unless we choose to and or unless we assent to the crafter of the document, who shall be the same nationality and status, an ancient, original, indigenous, sovereign, Moorish, American, Al-Moroccan God, proclaimed as such. This is another reason why we are using the letterhead of the previous bankrupt persons who were in the office of wherever, whatever. We use those instruments because we can speak about our person there. And then we use the resources because that's a part of the liquidation process, where we can use any of the resources, and that especially includes the offices, because those offices are our offices first and only. Those offices have never belonged to anyone else. So we use those offices to our advantage at all times because that is the law. To keep the heirs safe and to keep the heirs governing, and we keep our, again, we're the only ones who can do that. So during our time when we were, coming into the fullness of this knowledge, we were looking for custodians in the office of, whoever to say something about our natural person. And they never could do that properly because they are not us. We have to use those offices that belong to us to say, and then you just take the person that is subject to you, and you say, okay, that here's their signature is on the public record. That is also a fiduciary resource that we can use to liquidate. Liquidation, according to the federal rules for federal laws for bankruptcy procedure, the fiduciary and the bankruptcy court decides how the resources are used, and we as the bankruptcy court have already decided that we can do whatever we want to do with the resources on our land using proper court procedure, which is notify, send it out as a court command on Moorish government letterhead by affidavit in blue ink send out your commands, and that's the purpose of putting the red documents on the public record, because that was actually speaking to the heavenlies. That's what the red documents do. They speak to the spirit realm. That's what red letter edition Bibles were all about, is speaking in the spirit realm. We do it as above, and then we say, okay, so below. Now we execute that and bring that forth. At any time, we as a nation or any sovereign can choose to abolish their all capitalized person name, remove themselves from sovereign commerce, and accept fully their estate without the use of a person named tool. This action is also called bringing heaven to earth. We will discuss this in the days to come, because that's a whole next step in what we're doing. Right now, all we're doing is taking back the principles of our foremothers and forefathers. And by taking back the principles, the estate is automatically accessed. We take back the principles, but we leave all of the corruption over there in the grave. Just as a notice, nobility is proven, not assumed. Those that the custodians previously doing business as politicians would assume an office. You cannot assume nobility. It's proven. The ancient energies have safely tested our knowledge, courage, fortitude, energy, consciousness, tenacity, and study along the way to assist us in standing on our square, growing, rising fully, knowing, and demonstrating our sovereign authority, power, and status. And that's according to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science by the Prophet, chapter 29. Step 7. Begin creating and demonstrating ancient Moorish American Al-Moroccan Article 3 documents that express our sovereign jurisdiction over our all-capitalized natural person, as well as over all persons subject to this state government. And all persons are subject to the Moors and to this government and this state. So as a case study with regard to these steps, I'm just showing you again how I got from nationality to printing 100 million in fiduciary money. So then there were incidents that happened, events that happened, where the individuals that were doing business as City of Federal Way Corporation, where they arrested and detained the natural person, but taking the fiduciary, because see, you cannot separate the sovereign, our fiduciary, and our natural person. You can't separate them. We can separate them, but they can't. So, one of my 100 millions, because we have 100 millions all over the place, actually. All of us do. But my 100 million, I'm just showing you where one of them came from. There were 2 initial attempts at acquiescence in 1437, 1438, which is 2017, prior to the following major events. So I was pulled over twice before the major event number 1 happened. Okay. Pauline Denise Ritchie, during both events, sovereign jurisdiction was invoked by the fiduciary, which is Pauline Denise Ritchie in capitis diminutio minima. Let me put that in parentheses. In the favor of natural person Pauline Denise Ritchie, in all capital letters. During both events, City of Federal Way Corporation and the dead City of Des Moines Corporation, which are highway bandits, attempted to obtain Federal Reserve debt notes. But the living ancient Article 3 courts do not recognize nor use dead instruments nor recognize dead entities. We do not understand dead language, therefore no dead instruments were issued. Rebuttal affidavits were sent to the custodians in the office of each corporation, and no further action was taken by the custodians in the office of the aforementioned corporations. And then major event number 1 happened. On December 10th, 2017, individuals doing business as City of Federal Way Corporation arrested and detained natural person Pauline Denise Ritchie in capitis diminutio maxima, which means in all capital letters, a natural person who is a living citizen minor. Let me make sure I put that, because citizens are minors. Under the dominion, protection, authority, and control of the universal sovereign, ancient living Moroccan Empire state that is Washington, a natural person. The Empire State Fiduciary for the citizen is Sovereign Living Justice Pauline Denise Ritchie in capitis diminutio minima, which means first letter capitalized, the rest of the letters lowercase. In blue ink, who is protected by the United States aligned with the ancient Empire State, or the States United. Okay. The United State that represents individual citizen Pauline Denise Ritchie is Washington, a natural person which consists of a group of living citizens who have agreed to unify and govern, and that's all caps, being one of the several states, Washington. The state fiduciary for the natural person, Pauline Denise Ritchie, this is the natural person, did properly state the sovereign status, because this natural person cannot speak. So the fiduciary always has to speak. And since we're not persons, because that's the only thing they could deal with was a person, but they didn't state the proper person. Okay, so the state fiduciary for the natural person, Pauline Denise Ritchie, did properly state the sovereign status, sovereign-born appellation, and free national appellation, which is like to Jure Bay, for Pauline on the public record at the time of the arrest event. Despite the fiduciary properly and lawfully identifying the natural person, the City of Federal Way Corporation unlawfully presumed that the natural person, Pauline Denise Ritchie, was their fictitious dead entity creature, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in black ink crafted by them on their paper, and or one of or all of its foreign agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and or any and all derivatives thereof. See Federal Rule for Civil Procedure, Title 4, Section 17 and 18, which talks about anytime there's a court action going on, we have the authority to put in the proper person, a natural person, and say, you didn't properly state the person. Our person is stated in our state, and it's a living state, whereas their person is stated in a dead state. Natural person Pauline Denise Ritchie was detained until January 4th, 2018. So from December 10th rather, to January 4th, 2018. From December 10th, 2017 to January 4th, 2018, so about 24, 25, 26 days, Pauline Denise Ritchie was detained and did continue by way of sovereign state fiduciary, properly state her true identity and invoke sovereign state jurisdiction. So this Pauline Denise Ritchie in blue, whose fiduciary is a living fiduciary or a like fiduciary. See, I cannot be a like fiduciary for this dead thing because I'm living and that's dead. That means they cannot speak for the living. So their Pauline Denise Ritchie is not the same as mine. Okay, so The fiduciary did not sign any documentation nor issue any foreign unlawful military scrip known as United States Federal Reserve debt notes, but continued to invoke sovereign jurisdiction without wavering. All sovereign rights were and continue to be exercised at all times, nunc pro tunc. Now, we're still telling you how we got to the 100 million. Major evidence number 2, on November 22nd, 2019, Black individuals, and when we say Black, we know Black is a status, but here's a photo of them, just so that you are aware of them. Black individuals dressed in Black uniforms with the dead foreign corporate United States word police on the back of the jackets pretended to appear on sovereign land, presuming to find a Black dead corpse. No corpse was found, and the Black individuals retreated from whence they came. This is where I told you all that I got up in the window and I took a picture. And this was the time where I said, okay, I've got to do another court action. And this is where my court actions picked up significantly. I did the first court action in November in 2018, and then it was a while I had to do some more study, and then this was where I started really picking up and doing court actions. So and once with this right here, once I did the court action, because this is where they started coming every day for 3 weeks. Every day they would come for 3 weeks and knock on the door. Every day for 3 weeks. Until I said, okay, I've got to do something. And the ancestors were dealing with me throughout that time, and they said, okay, now it's time for you to do a court action. Get some evidence for your court, and then do the court action. So this was the evidence that I used. Our flag is right here in the corner. You can see our flag flying proudly. And I said, okay, this is my evidence of unlawful occupation. And then I did the court action, and they stopped coming. And I didn't hear anything from them for until the next POW demonstration last year, actually 1441, which is 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. And that was major event number 3. So again, all this time, while these events are between this distance of time of these events happening, the ancestors are giving me more information. We're continuing to put things on the public record. We're learning more. We're being tested along the way. And every time a test came, it was to boot us forward and say, hey, do some study on this so you can free yourself. Because I'll say this, Morris, this photo right here was my nightmare before I woke up. This was my nightmare before I woke up and knew who I was policy enforcers coming. Even if it was just to knock on the door and ask a question, it was just a nightmare for me. And so when I first woke up, my first question to the ancestors was, how do we get past this? They said, don't worry, we'll show you. And then the test began. And then they started sending the information. And we just kept demonstrating, and then they would give us another piece or another a key, and we would demonstrate that key. They wanted our courts going. They would demonstrate that. I would demonstrate the next keys. And you all have seen, the videos of us. When we learn something, we put it on the public record and actually demonstrate it because we have to. So, and we love it. We love our demonstrations. We love to demonstrate our sovereign status. So then major evidence number 3, and look at the time period between these. The first test was in 2017. December 10th. The second major event was November 2019. And then the third event was February 8th, 2021. And each time we're getting bolder and bolder, and we're learning more, and the ancestors are showing us more, and we're being tested, and they're just leading us straight to the estate. I mean straight to it, through the testing. So on February 8th, Black individuals doing business as City of Federal Way Corporation appeared on the land at Federal Way and arrested and detained Pauline Ritchie, which is not their person. Pauline Ritchie is a natural person in all capital letters. The sovereign living fiduciary, Pauline Ritchie in capitis diminutio minima, for Pauline Ritchie, convened the ancient Article 3 consular court and began a 10-day court action that sustained sovereign jurisdiction and yielded the release of Pauline Ritchie. The fiduciary actually was released and I brought with me my natural person. But then even after that, you could see they were still trying to act on the natural person, because there was still some study that the ancestors wanted to show us about that. And then came the fiduciary documents and things like that. Several Article 3 consular court actions were held after the freedom of Pauline Ritchie, to include a trial by Moorish American jury with a verdict of innocent and a compensatory award for $100 million in lawful money. And then I put the links to the videos showing, like, when I first got out of the 10-day court action, where I stood on my square. I didn't care how long I had to be in there. I was going to stand, period. I was not going to go to any of their court fake stuff. I wasn't going to any of that. I just did court actions repeatedly. And I told you all about that and did videos to point out what was going on. And I'm so glad that it's on the public record as we were being tested. And these are the links. And then after that, I put the documentation that they were using on the public record also, and talked about it with we all discussed it. And then on this call, we all did a court action, and a verdict was given at minute marker 1 hour and 6 minutes in this video, where a jury of my peers proclaimed my innocence. And that's another something that we Moors have to get in the habit of doing for one another, is doing court actions and helping one another and being the jury, okay, of our peers. That did not require any permission from any foreigner at all for us to get from A to Z, basically. And we were all along creating our own remedy. So the award for the $100 million is at minute marker 109 of this same video where the verdict was given. And again, Moors, you get to state the award for whatever it is that that you want to state. But then we know that even when we made the award, we knew they didn't have anything to pay with because they're bankrupt. So we had to create a way to pay, for them to pay. So the $100 million is for these events that have taken place, during our testing and the grand rising, where we just create our own remedy, create our own pathways, create. Because they don't have anything to give. The government and state began to enforce the $100 million lien and remedy After the previous placement on the public record of an ancient original indigenous, Article 3, Universal Commercial Code lien, quo warranto, mandamus restitutio affidavit on City of Federal Way, corporation and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any and all derivatives thereof. The lien is placed on the dead corporation pretending to be a city government because we know that we are Federal Way. We're the city, we're the state, we're the government, not them. Corporations cannot govern, and that's according to the Clearfield Doctrine, and we just quoted the Clearfield Doctrine here. Governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private, corporate, Federal Reserve note, commercial paper, and securities is concerned. Now let me clarify some things here with regard to this. And this is why we cannot use Federal Reserve notes in the state that they were in, because we have to use something created by the real Federal Reserve, not the fake one. The reason being, theirs was a private corporation, whereas ours is public. The Federal Reserve was never meant to be a private corporation. It was meant to be something to assist the public in doing public things like commerce. So that's the difference between our Federal Reserve. Ours is original, indigenous, and de jure. It's always been that for us. We were the first Federal Reserve. So anything that we print is not private commercial paper. It is public commercial paper. And it's the law, actually. It's fiduciary money. So for purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. And the beginning of the sentence, they put a capital G because they were talking about those other ones doing business as a private. And here, this one is in all lowercase letters. And this comes from Bank of U.S. versus Planters Bank, 9 Wheaton 22 U.S. 904, 6 LED 24. So that's the stare decisis and res judicata that this case comes from. A second case, when government enters the world of commerce, they are subject to the same burdens as any private firm or corporation. So what do? We ensure that our governmental capacity and our commercial capacity are separate, which they are. We can use and see for us, because we're sovereign, it's going to look like government is doing commerce, but we're not. We change, just like the prophet said, your ID card is going to change in your pocket. Okay? So as we're doing commerce with, like, for example, we do the sea salt and things like that, we can do commerce. Then we can turn around and govern our own commerce. That's what self-governing is. We can turn around and govern our own commerce. So as we're doing commerce, we're still the government. We're just in a different capacity. That way the two don't mix. We can be having a commercial conversation, and in that same conversation, I can turn right around and be government, because we're always government. We're government first, and then commerce and all of that other stuff. And that's why we say, some people use the terms public and private, and you're free to do that. You're sovereign. And because you're sovereign, you can use public and private if you want to. I prefer sovereign, period, at all times. It says notification has been given to the custodians previously in the office of Federal Way City. The government, that's this government, there's only one government, that's the Moors. The government did issue a statement from the mayor's office and the police chief's office regarding the award. And you saw those. I'll show them to you again. in just a moment, if you'll remind me to show you. The government also issued a statement from the Chief Justice's office at the Supreme Court at Washington, D.C. territory to the custodian previously in the office of Head Magistrate at Federal Way Municipal Court. At this time, the award is hereby issued directly to Pauline Ritchie by Fiduciary Trustee Pauline Ritchie. So there we're going from fiduciary government to commerce. It just depends on which one of these you're using. They're both tools. They're both tools. We minister the public, government, treasury, and Federal Reserve, and not a private corporation. Everyone can use the fiduciary money that this government prints for any lawful exchange that they choose. Everyone can use it, but only the Moors can print it. So for those who are, if you are yoked with a modern European, we honor your choices because you're sovereign. You can choose how you choose to choose, but they cannot print what we use. We have to do it. We are ministering the bankruptcy, the liquidation of the bankruptcy, because the bankruptcy is done. We are ministering the bankruptcy liquidation of all United States corporations. So it does not matter if they're down the street, around the corner, up the way, down the way, towing companies, mom and pop shops, they're all bankrupt. 7-Elevens, gas stations, Microsoft, Apple, all of that. We're ministering the airlines, hotels, all of that. We're ministering the bankruptcy liquidation for all of them. For we are the original indigenous living people with full authority, power, possession, dominion, and control of all persons living and dead. And that information is found many places, but it's also found in the legal code book called the Bible. We call it the Biblioheliotext. At Matthew 12:37, Proverbs 10:19, Proverbs 12:13, Proverbs 13:2, Proverbs 13:3, and Proverbs 21:23. So that is how we got from declaring our nationality to being the wealthiest heirs on earth, in heaven and on earth. Because remember, we could have said 100 million for each one of those incidents, so that would have been about 600 million or something like that, 700 million. But we just said, okay, 100 million for that one, because we still got other stuff, other 100 millions coming from other places. Anyone who ever sent the utility, the custodians in the office of utility companies, issuing to the wrong person, and then turning off the light of the sovereign. That's 100 million right there for each incident if you choose. In other words, we can print as much fiduciary money as we want to print because they're bankrupt. We bankrupted them with our liens and our court actions and all of that. So that's how we got from the day I first heard a Taj Tariq Bey video to now. And now we have so much more governing to do. We have to continue putting the resignation letters on the public record. And then, and this is, and I think I mentioned this previously, the resignation letters is just the beginning of the actions that we do so that we can issue 100 million from that resource too. So for each resignation letter, you really should have $100 million something, an award for yourself, $100 million award for yourself. Again, we have so many. I mean, the more bills you have, the more 100 millions you have. We could issue 100 million for each time a fake bill was sent, and some action was taken where the heirs had to do without. When you're talking about domiciles, foreclosures, you know, and all of that debt that was never our debt. And it's going to take a while. This is not an overnight process where you just keep recouping and recouping and recouping and recouping and recovering and restoring to yourselves. That's why we have said the whole time, I could feel it in my spirit as the testing was happening. I could feel it in my spirit that, and I've stated this several times on these calls, that you're going to get double for your trouble, but really it's like 7 times 70 and 100-fold of whatever you've been through. You can award yourselves, because you're going to get everything back so many times over that it's just amazing. Now, in using the fiduciary money, here is the way that I'm going to use it in my own affairs. What I'm currently doing is, for example, if you're going to go on a trip, you want to send the fiduciary money, mail it like you would any other affidavit and things like that. Send your affidavits with it, with clear commands on what's to be done, what the custodians are to do. Because what we're really preparing to do is we're going to be not just sending, but we're going to be receiving, because we're getting ready to go and just be out governing. Okay. So, for example, if you know you're going to go on a trip and you're going to stay in a hotel, tally up how much it's going to take for your stay, minus the taxes, because you're not taxed. We are not taxed, and then send that amount plus a little bit more for incidentals to the headquarters, the quote unquote, I want to say corporate headquarters, and it really is corporate headquarters, except that corporate headquarters is on our land. It's not existing in a dead corpse state. It's a living, natural person. It is. This, Brother Smith, that is so true. Brother Smith Bay says trading places. Absolutely, yes. Getting back in our proper place, being ourselves. Send it ahead with, your reservation space or whatever. And if you want to make a reservation first and then give the reservation number when you mail out what you're going to mail out. And then you send it both to the corporate headquarters and to where you're going. Send it ahead. So we have to plan in advance. And then count out that amount of fiduciary money, and then any other things that you're planning for. For example, if you know that you're going to be ordering, food in the hotel, go ahead and add that in, room service or whatever the case may be, and then put it forth, and then get ready to take your trip, and do the same with the airlines and all of that. So you could go online and get an itinerary. You don't have to, I'm not going to be purchasing a ticket straight out. I'm going to be sending that ahead, or and I still have to do this demonstration, taking it and uploading it into the bank. So either way, I'll be able to use my merchant card to do whatever I need to do. And then when you get on the phone, you just tell them the merchant card number and the amount. So just however many ways we were able to do commerce before, we have the means to do that now. We can still do it that way. It's just we're using our instruments and not theirs, because they're bankrupt, and you don't want to be a co-debtor with them. You want to be the creditor. So we have our liens, we have our money, we have our cards, we have all that we have. And then I'm going to send a copy of my fiduciary, I'm also sending a copy of my merchant card with the fiduciary money so that they will know how everything works. And they know how that stuff works because, believe it or not, Moors, foreigners have been doing this already with their foreign stuff. They were pretending to be us. So it's really not anything new. It's new to us, but not to the systems. Islam.
Islam. This is Justice again.
Islam.
I was looking online the other day and I saw some PVC cards with a chip in them. And I was just wondering.
You might need to move a little bit away from your computer or something.
Okay. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. I was wondering, how do we get the systems to be able to read our chips? Or if we make our merchant cards with a chip or something like that, how do we connect the dots on that?
So as we move into the next phase, which is going and being in the banks, we can just issue chip cards ourselves. But that's not something that, unless you can program it yourself. That's what I'm saying. If you have the equipment to program the chip yourself, then you can do that. But I looked at the programming of it, and first the strip needs to be programmed, and then the chip can be programmed. If my understanding of that is correct.
Okay, now can we connect those to our sovereign accounts? I mean, we're the bank. We should be able to do that for ourselves.
So we're going to have to do it for ourselves, but we're going to go into the buildings because we won't have to reinvent the wheel. We're going to go into the banks and begin issuing from there. So we'll have cards that will have strips and chips that can be ran anywhere, just like any other card or chip. But Justice Malik, I will say this: make sure that you put the accept all cards part from MasterCard and Visa and all of that in your documentation until then. But as far as the chips right now, I don't have a chip in mind because we're starting from making sure that everything is ours, that it comes from us first. Then we'll go into chips and things like that.
So the chip's not necessary. The chip or the chip's not necessary.
No, because we're putting affidavits with everything. So we don't. But remember, I showed last week where we don't even need the chips. Every single point of sale register, cash register, no matter where you are, has a keypad that they can put the numbers in and connect it. But again, we must, and we, as a part of our fiduciary duty, we actually are going to have to go into the banks and take over. Fun. It's already a wrap. I semi-demonstrated that last week with Wells Fargo, and they have they're pretty much they need some leadership. All the banks need leadership, and we're right here. So we're going to just keep moving forward. They're bankrupt. They can't do anything. We have to issue our own chip cards from, and here's the thing, Justice Malik, we have gotten this far so that we can take the resources and use them as they were meant to be used, because the resources were not being used the right way. So we don't have to try and reinvent a card that has its chip and all of that. We don't have to necessarily do that and then go out and try and program the chip. We don't necessarily have to do that. For Moors who know how to do it, it's a good idea to do it, though. For Moors who know how to program their own chips, it's a good idea to do it. For the rest of us, we're just going to go into the buildings because those are our resources, and we're demonstrating for the whole earth. The whole earth needs banking, honest banking, honorable banking. So we're just moving forward. It's not an overnight process, so we're going to keep going. This is my sense that I have in my knower. The hardest part is over. We've done a lot. The hardest part is over. For us in particular, the hardest part for me was trying to see past fake policy enforcers and fake courts. And, and after that, it's gravy to me, from my perspective. Our ancestors know what they're doing. So my overall sense on that is, if you want to do the study on programming your chip, go ahead. You have sovereign authority to do all of that. And then share it with us, and we'll do it too. I just know that the chips are coming from someplace else. We don't know what they put in those chips. A back door? Something crazy? I don't know. So we're going to, and that's the problem. That has been the problem with the previous bank. The thing that we thought was a banking system is the hacking and stuff that's been going on.
Probably was. I was just thinking that's probably why it's a lot of things in Taiwan. They're the make. They make a lot of the chips. Anyway, I'm sorry. I was just thinking. Maybe that's. I don't know. I know Taiwan is supposed to make a lot of computer chips and things for different, technologies, and I don't know. Never mind. I was really supposed to be muted out. I was thinking something, but I was.
That's a good question, because we've been asked that before about being able to swipe the cards and being able to chip this, that, and the third is necessary. So the banking system, the previous one that we have placed under subjection and submitted it to us, is going to run side by side with ours for 1 year. I believe it's 1 year. From the time of the first issuance of the fiduciary money, which will be this week. So for 1 year, they'll run parallel. So that'll be time to learn about the chip piece and all of that. But after a while, we're going to have to go into the buildings, the bank buildings, and begin issuing from there. And that's where the chips and the strips and things like that are going to come in, because the technology to do it is already sitting there. They just can't use it. So we'll be able to do all of that. Back in the early to mid 1800s, all the way up until the perceived usurpation, presumed usurpation, banks were issuing their own currency and their own instruments. So we're there. So the chips and the strips are coming, because that's a part of the technology. Just from our perspective, we're moving very, very, we're just moving forward. But we want to make sure that we don't and it's not really a matter of that because it's not a fear of any kind. Where adhesion, contracts of adhesion are concerned. You know, that's why we're doing things the way we're doing it. It's creating it for ourselves first. Then we'll go out there and command and take dominion over. And we already have dominion over everything, you know. So chips and strips are coming. We're not using them now, but they're coming. Right now, our goal is to demonstrate fiduciary money, and merchant cards come with that, as far as I'm concerned. You know, because you know the merchant card has the fiduciary money is the money on the merchant cards. So we're essentially giving ourselves a cash advance. Essentially. Yep, chips and strips are coming, but we want to be the programmers of it. From the very beginning, we want to be the programmers of it. Because when a card in the previous banking, quote unquote, whenever a card was lost, they would say, "Oh, we'll have another one to you in 7 days," and some of them could get it overnight. They just sit in the back there and print it up. They chip it back there, they program it back there, and they strip it, put the strip on there back right in the back, and print it off and send it. That's almost an automated process. And I will say this about that. For example, the card that was previously the number sequence, let me put it that way, the number sequence that was previously on my Navy Federal card, that is a merchant card. Though that sequence of numbers is the sequence of numbers on my merchant card, on one of my merchant cards. So it already is programmed into the system, but I wanted to be sure that it's programmed into the credit system and not the debt system. And it is, because we issued the merchant card. The issuer determines the system. You know, so now I could destroy the Navy Federal debt card. They call it a debit card. Just take the I out of debit and it says debt. So, you know, that card had chips and strips. You know, but that's not what we want to use. So we'll get there. We're getting there. We are definitely getting there. I'll say that. We're moving quickly, very quickly. Brother Smith Bay said something interesting too. Yes, Sendalarium. If you want to Sendalarium with your packages, you can. When I send out fiduciary money, I won't Sendalarium just because we're you know, the documents are already high level and above most pay grades. We're at the CEO level. We're actually above that in terms of competence. And so I don't want to add any more confusion to what they're doing, because Dollarium is actually our national currency. So we use that among each other to do commerce back and forth for natural products and things like that. The fiduciary money is to liquidate the rest of what the subjects and custodians have done on the land, you know. So we're just changing everything over. Once we liquidate them out, then we won't even need fiduciary money anymore. We'll just use dollarium and gold and silver. So we're getting there. I'm just glad we're at this point. I'm glad we're here because it has been quite the journey. Are there any other questions or comments?
Oh. Islam,
Memphis.
I checked my bank account and there's no checking listed. Showing just the savings with nothing in it. And then on my credit union account, it doesn't show anything. So I know you mentioned doing like a spreadsheet.
Yes. Google Sheets is what we use to send things back and forth.
Okay. Because I did, the liens.
Okay.
But
so,
I didn't get any correspondence regarding what happened to the accounts either.
Okay. So look at what we've placed on the public record in terms of going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, and with what you've done, and ensure that you've done, that you've done everything that needs to be done. I will say this about the banking piece. When we will see deposits in the accounts when we put them in, and then we're the ones in control of it. I don't think they can even put. That's why we know it's in there, and we know we can use it. But will it be reflected in their records? And it's not even their records; those are still our records. They don't have the authority to do anything like that. They don't have the authority to do it, especially where we are right now. They could have done it previously. No, they couldn't. We're being called out of or not out of, but we have to go into the bank and put the money in the system. And that's here already. We're already at that place. That's why we are having to resign everyone. Resign them and then get them out of there and then go in and do what we do. It's not an overnight process by any means, but we still have to do it. So, yeah. So you may not see anything in there right away because they know that they're on their way out the door. See, when this is the thing, Empress, when they're bankrupt, their hands are tied. And they really should have been tied the whole time. They shouldn't have been doing anything. They shouldn't have been moving any money around, fiat around or anything like that. They should not have been doing that. And as we rise and change, they're changing. Like when we first do a demonstration, they respond a certain way and do the command a certain way. And then when we learn some more about that demonstration and we add something to the demonstration, then they change again. They change again. They change as we change. So where some Moors had success in getting things put into to show up when they sign on to online and see that there's something in the account, most have not had that experience because there's still some more work that we all have to do. We have to, again, it's not an overnight process. We have to keep moving. So you may not see anything right now, but shortly you will, especially as we keep resigning and moving them out of the way, and them getting out of the way, which they are absolutely doing. So you may not see anything now, but the next time you see something, it may be you putting it in there, you going into the bank to a computer terminal and putting it in there. we all know that the quote-unquote banking system is done. We know that. Everyone knows that, and everyone's expecting a big crash. Well, I don't know. Big crash, no crash, loud crash, soft crash, whatever. We are expecting not a lot of chaos, but we know what we have to do. So we're just going to keep moving. And in the interim, Empress, if you don't see it there, just use your fiduciary money and your affidavits to get whatever it is that you need to get.
Okay. Thank you.
Islam. And Moors, we have everything. We have all the tools. We have everything we need to keep moving forward. With each process, we are having to work through those processes. Each achievement that we achieve, we're having to look at it and then say, okay, now we're here. How do we move through these processes? Okay, we do it this way. And it's getting easier because we have a formula for how to do it. We have a formula. And that was really what I was looking for from day one, is what is the formula for demonstrating our sovereign status? The formula is a lien by court action, followed by taking fiduciary control and responsibility over all persons that have been lien. Well, the lien persons go to jail, okay, because those are not our persons. Those are fraudulent persons. Those are dead persons. And then the fiduciaries then insert their persons into what they're doing. And then we can, that whole thing about the puppet master, we take the persons. For example, we issued a statement from the mayor's office and the police chief's office because we know we're the mayor and the police chief. So we issued a statement using the persons and saying this comes from this person, this comes from this person. And it matches miraculously our affidavits. Empress, with regard to the bank account thing, you can actually issue something from the president saying put this in there, saying we're bankrupt and put this in there. The account should reflect what the fiduciary money that has been given.
Right. I use DeLorean. So can I email it or mail it?
Can you email it or mail it, Empress?
Or, well, I can take it in too, which was what I've done.
It's your demonstration to do.
Okay. Thank you, Islam.
It's your demonstration to do. However, whatever you decide, because you're governing. And you have to, Empress, it's important that you know that when they speak, they're not talking about your person, because they cannot speak on your person. That's why you must give them competent commands, on what to do with the person. You tell them what happens with your person. They don't tell you, because they're talking about a dead one. You tell them. They don't tell you. And that's another reason why it's really not even necessary to talk to them, because they're going to be talking about their person. That's why we have to resign them and get them out of the way, because they can only speak a certain way. Whereas when you send your commands by mail, or you hand deliver your commands and you don't speak to them, you just put the commands on the counter, okay, and then you go your way, there's no need to talk to them about it. because they're going to be talking about their person, not you and not your person. Their person is a debtor. They only know that one language. They only have one chakra commercially. So, those are important precepts to just kind of keep in your memory banks. Isn't it amazing that they call our memory a bank? Now I see why. Islam. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom of any kind?
Islam,
Empress.
Shasha and Bay again.
Islam.
I was wondering, on a video, couple of videos ago, on your document, I think you, Federal Way, or the custodians, or was it no, it was the custodians in the office had sent back the instrument.
The list.
Sent them the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were showing the address, and it was addressed to the reservation.
Yes.
I'm having a question because I've seen it somewhere else, and then we have territory, and I just want some clarification on. Did they put that in there, or was that they copied that you had put? I mean, I'm just trying to overstep.
They copied exactly what I put.
Okay, so yes. So can you explain to me then?
Yes.
The difference, please?
So the difference between a reservation and a territory, when we say it, is nothing.
Okay.
The land is the land is the land. But then if you want to, you can get into the etymology of each one of those words. You can get into the definition of each one of those words. The difference in our intention, is they're the same.
Okay.
But by definition and etymology, when I use the term reservation, it means that the land was reserved for us. And that's all land at earth is the reservation.
Okay.
And on a reservation, there can be no war.
Okay.
That's actually even in codes and statutes, that foreigners cannot bring weapons onto a reservation.
Okay.
And foreigners don't have any, they don't have any rights on a reservation because it's our courts.
It's okay. Now, so thank you, because the terminology reservation to me was, I had that
other one.
They had put us on the reservation. Do you get what I'm saying? And so that was where I was just confused.
Yeah, they've been on our reservation the whole time.
Well, correct. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as the word territory, I don't even spell territory with an I. Some people spell it Terriitory, but that's actually not the correct spelling. The correct spelling, Islam?
Terra, as in terra firma.
Yes. That's the correct spelling for territory, Terra. And that word is also used in space, out in space. When you go to different planets, you terraform and the planet.
Okay.
And that's all we're doing here. And then when we get done here, we may go to another one and do the same thing over.
Okay, thank you.
Islam, Empress.
Karima Bay, Virginia Territory. So I have a question about, or an idea rather, about like PayPal cards, green dot money cards, things of that nature. The only way to load those is at the custodians in the office of cashier. You hand them, the Federal Reserve debt note, or the fiat rather, or you can create, if you have a check, you can deposit that way. And I think those are the only two ways. So in reference to that, the cashier's check, I can do that demonstration, but I doubt if the DeLorean is going to get deposited on the card. So my thought or idea was to create, because you can get checks. You can get checks from an office, store, or what have you. And we have the routing number and account number to our bank, the U.S. bank, and create it, put that up there. What do you think about that idea?
Demonstrate that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because the reason I'm trying to figure something out is because I want to elevate my demonstrations to sending, using the prepaid mailing process. I haven't really been able to do that because I don't have the fee. I don't have the credits. So I feel like I'm not being active enough, and so I'm trying to figure out a way to get credit so I can at least elevate to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're just learning how to access your estate. That's all. And I will say this to all Moors. If you're feeling, if you're feeling like you're not being active enough, pay close attention to that feeling and go ahead and start doing some things, because I have found that whenever we have that feeling, if we don't yield and start doing things, the ancestors will flip a switch and something will happen. And
yeah.
We'll have to demonstrate,
Yeah, it'll be like an external push to do something. And I don't want to be externally pushed. I want to be internally pushed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What them coming for 3 weeks knocking on the door was. It was our ancestors saying, get the court going. Regularly, all the time, we want court on this land so that you can give yourself $100 million. So this commerce can be done properly and lawfully on the land. Yeah.
I also think I need to continue leaning as well, because this territory, they just continue acting like everything is okay, and I know that my liens are competent. So yeah.
So then when you see that means that's the ancestors saying there's some other steps that you can take, so you'll see the changes you need to see. Look at what we've been through in order to see the changes that we've seen. We see the whole thing changed. But it's only because the ancestors came in, even in our study, they flipped that switch and we got pushed, a motivational push. It's not a bad push, it's a good push to go ahead and move forward and do some things. Getting the courts active, the lien process, the fiduciary money, the delarium, all of that, there were pushes. There were things done where the ancestors said, okay, time to do something else. Take it to another level. You got to put another piece to the puzzle. So, yeah, pay close attention to that feeling more when you get it, because, either way they're going to push us, but they push us safely. I'm living proof of that. They will never push us too hard, but they will not let us sit and do nothing. They're never going to let us do that because we're too powerful. We are manifesting so much power, and we've only begun. We haven't even really started. Because once we get, now that we're where we are, now you're talking about accessing places that we were not able to access before, or that we thought we couldn't access before, and we hadn't gotten that far in the process. But now that we can access those places, and we're beginning to access those places, what is it going to be like when we can go to China territory and pull some of the rare earth minerals and find out after some lab work that those rare earth minerals give us anti-gravity properties. Or, you know, or they, I don't know if you all saw this movie called Limitless. There's a movie called Limitless. If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. It's about these people in New York, and they're like the quote-unquote Wall Street types. And they come across this pill called NZT. That's what they called it in the movie, NZT. And when they take this pill, they get our abilities, which is, you know, their memories become perfect. They can remember things they read when they were just learning how to read, or if they just picked up a newspaper and put it down 4 years ago, they can recall all that they saw on that page. And socially, they become the perfect social whomever, and that automatically brings the wealth to them. It's our story, really. It's our story. Limitless, that's our story. Except it's not a pill. They call it red pill, blue pill. We maybe need to look up the definition of the word pill, because it most likely it doesn't mean what they say it meant. But in this movie, they could do all of these things once they took this pill. But for them, when they took the pill, chemical levels, you could see chemical levels changing in their bodies. You know, they would show, you know, cells running really quickly and all of that stuff. And before you know it, they had supernatural abilities to remember. They could talk to anybody, any deficit that they thought they had previously. That deficit is automatically filled. Physically, they become whatever they wanted to become, and all of that. It's a great movie because it is NZT is a simulated version of us and our awakening. This grand rising. There's nothing we can't do. There's nothing we don't know. There's nothing we can't have. And there's nothing that we do not command. Nothing exists that's not under our dominion. Doesn't exist. And we're just tip of the iceberg. Barely tip of the iceberg. That's why getting past this point is, or past the point that we were at before, where, you know, I asked the ancestors, how do we get past fake policy enforcers and fake judges and fake all of that fake stuff? They showed us how to do that because now we see that, oh, look at what all we can do. Look at what all we can do. And we actually can state it. Just state it. Just say it. I want to show you one last thing here before we adjourn. And it is in Black's Law 4th. A word that I want us to just take a look at before we adjourn. Because this word, oh my, I've used it before because it's in the Biblios Heliotech. In my sleep I used it, but I had no idea what this word meant. I had no clue, but I know now why the Biblios used it. The word is utter. U-T-T-E-R is the word. The word is utter. There's a scripture that says something about speaking in your heavenly language as the Spirit gives utterance. And I'm like, okay, we know that for us, our heavenly language is first of all, heavenly language is whatever you say it is, Morris. So I'm just speaking now from our perspective here. And when I say our, I mean me and the ancestors that dwell within me. Our heavenly language is ancient English. Because we've actually been speaking that the whole time anyway, and we just thought we were speaking something else. But this word utter, let's just take a look at it before we go, because okay. Utter. You know, we were told that utter means to speak. That's what we were told it meant. It meant to speak. What it really means, now this is utter as a verb. It comes as a verb or as an adjective. It says here as a verb, to put or send into circulation. To put or send into circulation. Now, they say as a forge check, and again, this was written by those who, and we know we do forge, but we have to know that when we use that word, forge means to craft, to create, to forge. When sometimes they will say, Providence forges ahead. Well, they know what they're talking about, and we do too now. To put or send into circulation. To publish or put forth. That's to utter. So our words and putting the words on the public record. It says here to offer. To utter and publish an instrument as a counterfeit note is to declare and assert directly or indirectly by words or actions that it is good. The Spirit actually gives the utterance. Uttering it is a declaration that it is good with an intention or offer to pass it. To utter, as used in a statute against forgery and counterfeiting, and we talked about those words, forging ahead. They call, when a craftsman is crafting using steel or some metal, it's called forging also. It's called forging. And debt is a counterfeit to credit, and credit is a counterfeit to debt. It's a fit, but it's a counterfeit, in other words, in the opposite direction. Okay. And then let's look here as well. Now, look at the word, first of all, uttering or publishing a check consists in presenting it for payment, and the act is then done, although no money may be obtained. Because again, they didn't have money when this was written. They still don't have money. We have money. Utter as an adjective, entire, complete, absolute, total. It says in a statute, making utter desertion for 3 years a ground for divorce. It suggests an abnegation of all the duties and obligations resulting from the marriage contract. Uttering abolishes contracts. I'm just saying. This word abnegation here means it's almost like an abandonment of the duties and obligations, but when we utter, it obliterates contracts. And that is why what we say and the language that we use is so important. Justice Sharif put in the chat, pill, a disagreeable experience that has to be endured, an unpopular person. Oh, a pill is a person? Red pill or blue pill? Red person or blue person? Which do you want? A pill is a person. Interesting. Empress Shalifa, Empress Shatali, the Capitol is on recess. Man fatally shoots self after crashing car into barricade near U.S. Capitol building. Oh, Islam, Empress.
Yeah. I just wanted to share that article to give us a little bit of energy. I was trying to put a link in the chat so you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get rid of the echo. Okay, so in the article it says that someone ran into the barricades at the U.S. Capitol, but the Capitol was on recess at the time, so they're trying to give a reason why there's nobody there. But I was surprised that they tried to even offer an explanation. Yeah. And so it's like we got to say something because it's too obvious that there's nobody there. So yeah. I just want to put that in there a little bit of energy.
Here we are. We sitting right here or standing right here. Thank you, Empress. Yes, Islam. So with that being said, there is absolutely no way that the sovereign living heirs could ever even craft anything unlawful and dead. Everything that comes from us is living. Because you know what? Even in our sleep, we were issuing living things, living documents, because they couldn't do nothing without our signature and our consent. So we were alive even then. We were living natural persons then. We just needed to state it properly on the public record. So, with that being said, Islam.
The article, did you share with the people about the Bitcoin and how they said that the government is going to be running that? Did you share with them that?
Oh, no, I did not. I didn't. That was Jim Rogers that was saying that, the custodian or subject known as Jim Rogers. Let's see if I can find that. Okay. Just a moment. They know we're here. It's not even a secret, and they're telling it.
Islam, I think I can find it and send it in the chat.
Okay. I believe this might be it right here. We remember. I think we had talked about cancel Okay, I think we had talked about regulating things. Everyone, and specifically the crypto space, you know, I don't even like the language, okay? Crypto. A crypt is a grave. And guess what? They're digital, so they're digging the grave. But they're saying about regulating, we must regulate all that's on our land. Let me see. Is it in the chat? Yeah, this is it right here. Okay, let me click that Empress and copy. I believe this is it right here.
Get that. You got it.
That's it right there?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, again, they, you know, the subjects know we're here, and it's actually their job to notify each other and all of that. You know, notice to agent is notice to principal. Once we put something on the public record, that's it. You know, and it actually, once we think it, that's it. But in this case, you know, for the sake of these demonstrations, you know, putting it on the public record, voting together, and all of that, governing as we should. Yeah, it is. All money belongs to the government, which is the people. So, with that being said, we will adjourn here and come back together on Thursday. And from this point forward, all we're going to be doing is studying the liquidation space and demonstrating liquidation and how best to do those things. You know, just the study of it and demonstrating liquidation. You know, so if there's nothing further, we stand adjourned. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Islam.
Grand rising.
Peace and grand rising. Islam.
Grand rising.
Islam.
Buenas noches.
Islam. Buenas noches.
Islam.
That you presented, will that be on the Google Drive?
What's that?
The how we got to where we are at now.
I could put it there.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Thank you.
At your command. After we Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Peace and love.
Peace and love, Empress. And we will end in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Islam.